Hello and welcome to Modelling Misadventures, and today I'm back on with the Caribbean Coaster. Now in the last video I got the exterior of the hull painted and the electrical installation all done, and in this video I'm going to be carrying on with the superstructure. But before I do that, I want to do a quick check of this boat in the water to make sure it's sitting at the right level and to check if it needs any ballast. Right, well, there's no leaks, but it's sitting a little bit high. So I've got 1 kilogram of lead shot in these bags, divided it up into 400 grams and 600 grams. Going to put the heavier bag at the back, the lighter bag at the front. Let's see how that looks. Well, that's sitting a lot better. Looks perfect at the front. A little bit higher at the back, but then again I've got to put some superstructure on here, so that'll add a little bit of weight. So I think that's looking about right. Let's give it a little run. It goes nice and slowly in reverse. Well, that's all working very nicely. Well, I'm very happy with that little test run. So now I can get on with the rest of the build. Now, before I start on the deck and the superstructure, I've made a couple of inserts just to go inside the boat. This one is a battery holder. And these here, I've made these just to put the lead shot in to stop it moving around. So this is going to go in there just to keep the battery from moving. And these are going to go in these compartments here to hold the lead shot. Now, if you're wondering how I got that exactly the right size, it was a complete fluke. Now, I've just watered down some white glue to fix all these in place, because I don't want them sloshing around or coming loose. Well, that's worked very nicely. They're not going to move. Now, when you get to this stage of a model like this, you realise you can't put off making the stand any longer. So, bought some wood. I'm going to go and knock one up. Well, that's my basic stand done. Now I'm just going to put some of this on it here as a bit of cushioning. Well, that's my stand finished. I think it looks quite nice. Just gives it a bit of a nautical feel. See how it looks with the boat on. Perfect. Right, the next part of this build is to get on with these decks. There's a foredeck here, a stern deck there, and then a deck that covers the cargo bay. Now, I did already cut these out, if you remember, from episode 2. And here they are. This one at the front here, I had to modify the shape of it to get it to fit my hull. The back one was pretty close. This one here, I just need to drill some holes in it for where the mast and cranes are going to go. I've got my holes cut out for the mast and the cranes. Now there's nothing really to support the mast and the cranes when you put them through here. I'm actually going to glue some little strengthening pieces on underneath just so that they'll be a bit firmer. And on the rear deck at the stern, I've cut out an access hatch because I want to be able to get to the rudder assembly if anything goes wrong. So I've cut that out. I'll find a way of covering it up later. All right, that should just give those holes a bit more strength. Just need to drill them out again. Well, these deck pieces are ready and it's time to decide what to do with them. Now, they could just be painted, but I think I'm going to try and go for this sort of look. I've just did a bit of a test run, and this is creating some fake planking just with a pencil. Very simple, but I think it looks quite effective, so I think that's what I'm going to go for. Now, there's a bit of discussion online about how wide these planks should be. If you actually make them a scale width, they look too thin and they're not actually very pleasing to the eye. So in model boats, they tend to oversize the width of the planks just to make them look nicer rather than actually realistic. So these are probably a little bit wider than they would be on the real ship, but I think that's going to look pretty good. So I'm just going to mark these out with a sharp pencil and then stain them. I'm just going to use the markings on here to get the width the same every time. Well, I've made a right mess of this deck planking. I started it off in the middle and did parallel lines, and it should have been centered, but as I got to the edge, you can see that the planking is on an angle to the side of the boat, and can't really live with it, so I'm gonna have to do it all again. Let's see how we get on with this one. I'm measuring it more accurately this time. Well, I've got it right this time. Now, to do the cross lines on here, to make these look like individual planks, I've been doing a look online to see if there's any set rules, and apparently there are some specific patterns that ship makers used to use. And you can see one here, which has a sort of diagonal pattern going along the deck, and that's the one I've decided to go for. I got my decking finished and quite happy with how it's come out. Pretty simple concept. Now about the colour, I've been looking at some different options. This is a stain and varnish. This is just a satin clear coat. And I've also experimented with some oil paint washes of different colours. This one, and this one. And actually, I think my favourite option is this. I quite like that yellowish colour to the deck. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. So I'm just using this yellow ochre for this wash. And I'm just thinning it with this Zippo lighter fluid. So I reckon that looks pretty nice. Well, I'm very happy with the colour of that deck. It's slightly uneven, which gives it a bit of a weathered look. Might do a bit more weathering later. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to glue them in. So to fit this main cargo deck here, you have to put some strengthening supports across the end and the middle of the cargo bay, and also some strips of wood underneath the hatches just to strengthen those as well. So the cargo deck is ready, supports on underneath, it's all done, and also got my supports in place along here so I can finally glue the decks on. That looks all right, doesn't it? So next I've got to start working on the superstructure. And here you can see we're working on the cabins and the bridge. And there's just a lot of plywood to cut out to make this. So these are the parts that I'll have to trace and cut out to make this superstructure. Now I need to do a fair bit of test fitting to get this right. It's not going to fit right off the plan. So I'm just shaping it as I go. That's looking pretty good. I'm just going to drill these windows out now. Oh no, I've made another cock up. This window isn't aligned properly. Should have measured twice and cut once, shouldn't I? Right, gonna have to make this again. Second time lucky. Now I've just got to square off these windows. I wish I had a square drill bit. Well, I've finally got this piece right. It's taken quite a bit of effort to cut out all the windows and get them shaped, but it's looking okay, so I can get on with the rest of the superstructure. So I'm going to get to work on these bits now. Just a bit more plywood cutting. Well, I've got all my parts for the superstructure cut out. Took a lot of work to get all these done. A lot of cutting, sanding, filing. But anyway, now they're all done, I can start to put the superstructure together. Now on the instructions, it tells us to take this U-shaped piece here and glue it onto that deck, and then wrap this piece around it, as you can see here. And then when this is on, you put another piece of decking here on top of it. You're going to go there. Now I'm going to change this around a bit because I think it'll be easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that deck, glue the U-shaped bracket onto the bottom of there, and then put these cabin walls around the edge and get that bit finished first before I add that to the boat. Now you've got to make sure that this cabin wall here is going to wrap around this bracket perfectly to the right length. So I've been fiddling with it, and now I can test it like this, and as long as it fits tightly, it'll be a perfect fit. Now I need to make sure I've got this perfectly centered, so I'm just going to measure the edges here until I get it right. Look at this, put it on upside down. That's how it should be. Now I'm just going to glue some strengthening pieces on here to help hold those side walls. We'll see if the super glue can hold that. Now just some strengthening pieces on the corners here. So this bit has worked out pretty well. I've got the deck there and the cabin structure underneath. So I think that was a good way of doing it. And that just fits very nicely in there. So now I've just got to do the same for these rectangular cabin structures here. All pretty simple. I've encountered another problem. So I've built all these superstructure pieces, and just when I do a test fit, that is meant to come level with that. I've got no idea how that discrepancy has arisen, because I've measured everything off the plan and we're about a centimetre short. So I've come up with a fix. I'm going to saw 6mm off the bottom of this area here. That should bring everything into line. Right, I'm going to saw that off. Easy peasy. Let's see if it's worked. Perfect. This is the last part of this superstructure now. I've just got to make this upper observation deck. So that bit's done. It's going to sit on the top like that. So now I've got these superstructure parts made, I think it's going to be easier to paint these before I put it all together. So I'm going to do some filling, sanding, primer, and then the white top coat. Got these filled. Now a bit more sanding. So these are sanded off, ready for priming. Now I've masked off these decks because I don't want them to get painted. It's going to do them like the main decks. So I can go and spray them now with filler primer. That's the 2 coats of filler primer. So now it's onto the white. So that's the white done, and it's come out pretty nice. And so next, I'm just going to do the satin clear coat. These have got the clear coat on now, and they are looking pretty good. So I'll take the masking off and actually do these decks. Now I've got to do the deck planking. There they are. Now they just need to be stained. So that's my decking finished. And so we're at the point now where we can actually start putting this superstructure together. But before we do that, we need to sort out something with these windows. Now on the instructions, it just tells you to add cellophane to the inner face of all of these windows. So that's how they would do the glazing. But I don't really like the look of that because there's always then the windows look to be set back against the wood. So one thought I had was, could I do it on my 3D printer using clear filament? And that's an absolute disaster. You can see you can't really see through those. So what I'm going to try is this. This is some leftover glazing material that I had from the Chris Craft Corvette project. And it's really nice. It's quite thick. It's got protective film on both sides. I think that's going to make some much better windows. So I'm going to glue these in with this canopy glue or gluing glaze. And to make sure it's flat, I'm just going to push it up against that ruler from the inside. Now I've got to do all of these. Right, leave them to dry and then take the protective film off and see what they look like. Well, I think they look all right. Not absolutely perfect, but they look like pretty good windows. Quite happy with that. Now I've still got to do something about these round windows here on that lower deck and these here. I think I'm going to leave them for now and try and make some portholes to fit in those holes. I don't think they'd look good just with glazing. Well, it's been a lot of work making all these, but now it's time to put it together. All right, first up, this first piece of decking. And on it goes. Right, next level. All right, the rear section. This is the main event now, really. Putting the front of the superstructure on. I'm going to glue it on in stages from the bottom to the top. I've got it fastened on at the bottom. Next, I'm just going to seal it around this curve at the top. Well, there it is, it's on. Going to be a bit of touching up to do around the edges, but I think it looks pretty good. Well, there we are. We've got all the superstructure done now on this boat, and it's really starting to take shape. Really liking the look of it. There's still a lot to do on this boat to finish it off, especially with all the deck fittings, but I think for now that would be a good point to stop on this video. I hope you've enjoyed seeing it get to this stage. It's looking really nice. So I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Modelling Misadventures.